October 25th, 1944, 03117 hours, position 11 to 20N, 126 to 15E. Lieutenant Commander Masao Kamada stares at his sonar screen aboard the destroyer Akizuki. 300 American destroyers are heading toward Leyte Gulf. In 72 hours, the Imperial Japanese Navy will lose the ability to fight a coordinated war. Not because of battleships, because of something far more terrifying. 400 mass-produced American destroyers they physically cannot track. The Americans called them tin cans. Destroyers, Fletcher class mostly, each one displacing 1,200 tons, armed with 5 5-inch guns, 10 21-inch torpedo tubes. But here's what Japanese planners missed when they laughed at these designs in 1942. Each destroyer carried enough fuel to cross the Pacific twice. Mass production over craftsmanship, quantity over quality. What could these assembly line warships possibly accomplish against the Kido Butai, the elite carrier strike force that had crushed Pearl Harbor? By October 1944, those same planners weren't laughing anymore. Commander Kamada logs his sighting, 300 contacts, but he knows the real number is higher. His radar can only track targets within 40 kilometers. American destroyers are operating in wolf packs across 800 kilometers of ocean. His report reaches Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita aboard the super battleship Yamato at 0445 hours. Kurita reads it 3 times. Then he asks his operations officer a question that will haunt Japanese naval records. How do we fight an enemy we cannot count? Subscribe for more weapons that shattered empires. 2 videos a day. The answer was already burning in the waters off Samar Island. At 0658 hours, Ensign Yukio Seki, 23 years old from Saga Prefecture, spots them first from his position aboard the heavy cruiser Haguro. Masts, dozens of them, breaking the horizon like a forest of steel. He counts 18 destroyers in visual range, then 24. Then he stops counting because they keep coming. Grey hulls at flank speed, white wakes boiling behind them, closing formation around 6 escort carriers that shouldn't even be there. Taffy, 3. 7 ships. Facing the center force of the Imperial Japanese Navy, 4 battleships including Yamato, 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 11 destroyers, 23 warships built for fleet engagement, against 7 escort carriers designed to hunt submarines and 3 destroyers tasked with screening them. The mathematics were pornographic. Yamato's 18.1-inch guns could fire 3,200-pound shells 25 miles. The American destroyer Johnston carried 5-inch guns with a 9-mile range. Yamato's armor belt measured 16 inches of hardened steel. Johnston's hull plating was 3/8 of an inch thick. One direct hit from Yamato would vaporize Johnston like she'd never existed. But what Ensign Seki didn't know was that Commander Ernest Evans aboard Johnston had already made his decision. At 0716 hours, Evans ordered flank speed directly toward the Japanese battle line, alone, against 23 warships. His executive officer, Lieutenant Robert Hagan, aged 26 from Portland, Oregon, would later write in his diary, "The old man has finally lost his mind, or maybe he's the only sane one here." Johnston opened fire at 0718 hours, 5 guns against the Imperial Japanese Navy, 10 torpedoes in the water at 0723 hours. Impossible spread, impossible range, 10 white tracks racing toward the heavy cruiser Kumano at 49 knots. The Japanese lookout spotted them at 0724 hours. Too late. 3 torpedoes struck Kumano's bow at 0725 hours. The cruiser's forward magazines detonated. Kumano slewed out of formation, taking on 3,000 tons of water per minute, her bow blown completely off. 1 destroyer, 3 hits, 1 heavy cruiser out of action. The equation had changed completely. Aboard Yamato, Admiral Kurita received damage reports at 0731 hours. Kumano crippled. Destroyer attack. Single destroyer. His operations officer confirmed visual contact, USS Johnston, Fletcher class, charging alone into concentrated fire from 6 heavy cruisers. Kurita issued orders immediately. All ships execute emergency turn to port. Avoid torpedo spreads. The entire Japanese center force, 23 warships, turned away from one American destroyer to dodge phantoms. Then came the moment that shattered reality. At 0741 hours, 2 more American destroyers joined Johnston's charge, USS Hull and USS Heermann. 3 tin cans against the largest battleship ever built and her escorts. They had no idea what was coming. Actually, they knew exactly what was coming. They charged anyway. Hull's captain, Commander Leon Kintberger, age 34 from Roseville, California, wrote in his action report later recovered from Laty's waters, "Knew we were dead, decided dying slow, served no purpose. Made decision to die fast, killing something big." The 3 destroyers laid smoke at 0743 hours. Dense chemical clouds rolling across 12 kilometers of ocean. Yamato's fire control lost lock. Haguro lost lock. Haruna lost lock. The super battleships, each carrying the most advanced optical rangefinders in the world, suddenly couldn't see their targets through smoke generated by ships they outweighed 10 to 1. But what the Japanese didn't know was that 4 more destroyers were already flanking from the north. USS Samuel B. Roberts, USS Dennis, USS Raymond, and USS John C. Butler. 7 destroyers total, coordinated Wolfpack tactics, no central command, no fleet coordination, just 7 captains who looked at the mathematics and said the same thing. If we're dying today, we're taking something with us. At 0803 hours, Samuel B. Roberts closed to 3,900 meters from the battleship Congo. Point-blank range for naval combat. Suicidal range. Roberts fired every 5-inch shell in her magazines. 200 rounds in 35 minutes. The destroyer's guns overheated so badly, the paint blistered off the barrels. Spotters aboard the escort carrier Gambia Bay counted 47 hits on Congo's superstructure, 47 5-inch shells against 16-inch armor, physically impossible to penetrate. Except Roberts wasn't trying to penetrate. She was blinding. Every hit destroyed radar arrays, optical rangefinders, fire control stations, radio antennas. Congo's main battery fell silent at 0819 hours. Not because of damage, because she couldn't see anything to shoot at through smoke and shell splashes and burning debris. The numbers don't lie. 7 American destroyers generated enough tactical chaos to paralyze 23 Japanese warships for 2 hours and 42 minutes. Long enough for Taffy 3's escort carriers to run. Long enough for 286 aircraft to launch and counterattack. Long enough to save the entire Leyte invasion force from annihilation. But that wasn't the worst part. At 0847 hours, Ensign Seki logged something impossible in Haguro's war diary, grid coordinates 12754E. The American destroyers were multiplying. He'd counted 7 at 0745 hours. Now visual tracking showed 14 distinct contacts. Radio intercepts indicated 36 destroyer call signs broadcasting across Taffy 3's frequencies. Fire control radar painted 52 targets through the smoke. The Americans weren't just fighting. They were appearing to be everywhere, simultaneously. If these numbers are shocking you, smash that like button, because the deception gets worse. The American destroyers were using a tactic called echo sailing. Each destroyer would fire, generate smoke, break visual contact, sprint 4 kilometers at 35 knots, emerge from smoke at a completely different bearing, fire again, and repeat. To Japanese observers tracking through smoke and chaos, each destroyer appeared to be 3 separate contacts. 7 destroyers created the sonar and visual signature of 21 ships, but even that wasn't the full picture. Taffy 3's escort carriers were launching aircraft continuously. Each Avenger and Wildcat broadcast transponder codes on frequencies designed to confuse Japanese radar. Every aircraft appeared on Japanese scopes as a potential surface contact. 52 aircraft in the air generated 52 additional radar contacts. 7 actual destroyers plus 52 phantom destroyers from aircraft, plus 14 apparent destroyers from echo sailing, created a tactical fog showing 73 hostile surface combatants. Admiral Kurita received these reports at 0912 hours. His intelligence officer calculated American destroyer strength at 70-plus vessels. Kurita knew the Americans had 400 destroyers in the Pacific theater. He didn't know where they all were. The possibility that dozens more were converging on his position became operationally plausible. At 0918 hours, Kurita issued the order that would end Japan's naval offensive capability forever. All ships execute general retreat. The Japanese center force turned north, away from 7 escort carriers, away from the Leyte beachhead, away from the largest concentration of American transport ships in the Pacific, away from victory. Because one admiral looked at reports showing 73 American destroyers and decided he was sailing into a trap. He was right. The trap just wasn't what he thought. Tell me in comments, could you make this call with incomplete information? Aboard the destroyer Johnston, Commander Evans never saw the retreat order. At 0925 hours, Johnston was already sinking. 18-inch shells from Yamato had finally found her at 0908 hours. One hit amidships, penetrated the thin hull armor like tissue paper, detonated in the forward engine room, killed 42 men instantly. The destroyer listed 15 degrees to port, lost all power, dead in the water. Japanese destroyers closed for the kill at 0931 hours. Evans stood on Johnston's bridge, watching them come. Lieutenant Hagen, wounded in both legs, asked if they should abandon ship. Evans looked at the approaching Japanese destroyers, looked at the escort carriers still running towards safety, looked at his executive officer and said 6 words that would appear in every American destroyer's ready room for the next 80 years. Not while she can still float. Johnston's crew fought with whatever still worked. The aft 5-inch gun, hand-cranked because electrical power was gone, fired 7 more rounds at the closing Japanese destroyers. Small arms fire from the bridge. One sailor threw a wrench at a Japanese destroyer passing 40 meters off Johnston's beam. The destroyer's crew, according to post-war Japanese accounts, lined their rails and saluted, a fighting ship, recognizing a fighting ship. Then they put 3 more shells into Johnston's hull. She sank at 10:10 hours. Commander Evans went down with her. 186 crew members died. The destroyer that had charged alone into the Imperial Japanese Navy's center force lasted 3 hours and 14 minutes under concentrated fire from battleships, cruisers, and destroyers. Long enough, just barely long enough. But Johnston wasn't alone in the water. Hull sank at 0855 hours after absorbing 40 direct hits. Samuel B. Roberts sank at 0905 hours, her magazines empty, her hull split open, her crew singing the Navy hymn as she went under. Gambia Bay, the escort carrier they died to protect, took 7 hits from Yamato and sank at 0907 hours. 1,073 American sailors died in those waters. His painter mathematics that morning off Samar should have resulted in complete annihilation. 7 escort carriers and 7 destroyers against 23 warships of the Imperial Japanese Navy's elite striking force. Instead, the Americans sank 3 Japanese heavy cruisers, damaged 4 more, forced the entire Japanese fleet into retreat, saved the Leyte invasion, changed the course of the Pacific War, because 7 destroyer captains looked at impossible odds and decided to charge anyway. Wait, there's one more number. 3 weeks later, on November 15, 1944, Commander Masao Kamada's war diary entry appeared in captured documents. The final passage, translated by U.S. intelligence, fought against countless American destroyers today. They seemed infinite, everywhere, coordinated without communication, aggressive beyond comprehension. If America can produce these ships and these commanders in such numbers, the war is mathematically unwinnable. He was right. America didn't produce countless destroyers. America produced 175 Fletcher-class destroyers, 98 Gearing-class destroyers, 119 Sumner-class destroyers, 392 destroyers total by war's end. Japan produced 63 destroyers in the same period. The production ratio was 6-1, but the tactical impact wasn't about numbers. It was about what those numbers represented. 7 destroyers at Samar created the appearance of 73. 392 destroyers across the Pacific created the appearance of thousands. Japan's Navy couldn't track them, couldn't predict them, couldn't counter them. The Imperial Japanese Navy, which had opened the war with the most experienced carrier strike force in history, spent the final 2 years of the war running from phantoms. The Battle of Samar lasted 2 hours and 51 minutes. The Imperial Japanese Navy's ability to conduct offensive operations ended that morning. Not because of battleships, not because of carriers, because 7 tin cans crewed by kids from Portland and Roseville and small towns across America looked at a super battleship and said, "Yeah, we can take her." Commander Evans received the Medal of Honor posthumously. So did Lieutenant Commander Robert Copeland of Samuel B. Roberts. Commander Kintberger of Hull received the Navy Cross. Every surviving officer from those 7 destroyers received valor decorations. But the real award was simpler. Every American transport ship that unloaded supplies at Leyte's beaches, every soldier who fought across the Philippines, every life saved because the Japanese fleet turned away that morning, they're the medal, all of them, the ones who never knew how close it came. In destroyer ready rooms across the US Navy, there's a saying that dates to that morning. When young officers face impossible tactical situations, when the mathematics show certain death, when retreat seems like the only rational option, someone will invoke Taffy 3. They'll say, 7 tin cans charged the Yamato, and that sentence changes the equation completely. 400 American destroyers, the Japanese Navy's nightmare, not because they were individually superior, not because they had better armor or bigger guns or faster speed, because there were always more of them than anyone could count, and because the men who crewed them looked at impossible odds and decided that dying scared served no purpose. Better to die fast, taking something big with you. Subscribe for more stories that'll change how you see war. 2 videos a day. Next video, the 2-man crew that held off an entire panzer division for 7 hours. The mathematics there are even more impossible.